And I was deployed every, oh my goodness, every 2 months I was out of the United States. I was gone. In Afghanistan and Iraq, anywhere you name it, I was over there. So it was a case of what was interesting about that program, you're in programs in the military. And a lot of times, no matter what rank you're at, if you're at lower rank, obviously always say as you get higher and higher in rank, and it'll be the same with you all as well. As you go through life or whatever programs you get a part of, you only see portions of the picture. As you get higher and higher in rank and you become more and more, you gather and garner more responsibility, you will get much, much more of the picture. So the thing is, ultimately, you get high enough rank, you'll see the whole picture of what they're talking about. So by the time I was on the Predator and Reaper program, I saw a big chunk. It was an experience to say nonetheless, but also the fact of just the experience of seeing the operations going from traditional conventional aircraft load I had come from, like A-10s and F-15s, and I finished off down here at Homestead. I ran the flight line at Homestead before I got out. I retired down here and ended up right back home, big circle, the conventional aircraft like that going into something that's unmanned, unmanned to where the one thing that sort of, and I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but the one thing that sort of like made it all sort of, came together in my head was I was standing in the ground control session at GCS. And while we're doing the mission, only so many people are allowed in there. And I was one of the ones required to be in there whenever they had troubleshooting. So I'm a mechanic. So traditionally an aircraft would come and land, and then you'd have to do a debrief with the pilot. And the pilot would tell you what he remembered, I think I did, I'm not sure, whatever he wrote on the canopy, type thing with their grease pencil or whatever they wrote on a piece of paper. And half the time they, weren't correct. So we had to duplicate whatever it was on the ground. However, with the unmanned system, I could literally go in, and it was really weird because they called me in and said, Sanders, we got a problem. We got a high VPP temperature. Virtual is a variable prop positioning temperature. So on a prop, I'm not sure if a lot of you know how prop works. Like many times with prop aircraft, it'll spin to a certain RPM. But if you actually turn the angle of the prop, it actually cuts the air a little bit more, which allows you to go faster. So a lot of times it's not so much actually the aircraft, the prop is spinning that fast or faster. If you turn the prop, because of the camber of the prop is like a wing, the camber of it is, if you spin it a little bit more, you cut through the air more and you actually go even faster than what the torque or the RPM is as well. So a variable prop means the prop is turning when it's variable prop like that. So it was overheating on a particular mission, and we had some person of interest in sight, and basically we had to troubleshoot while we're in the middle of a mission. And that's when I realized that this was very different than conventional. Normally it'd be okay, they came back and then tell me, hey, we got a problem. But now this was actually real time troubleshooting the aircraft. And I'm having them take the MTS ball, which is the ball on the bottom, which is the view site of where they're pretty much lasing targets or actually seeing their targets on the ground or whatever they're looking at. And I'm having them turn the ball because you had the pilot on the left and an enlisted sensor operator who was like a senior airman or somebody on the right. And I say, do me a favor, turn it around. And I'm troubleshooting. I'm looking at things on the bottom of the aircraft as it's flying, doing a mission. Now, to you all might not be seen that crazy, but it's something coming from my roots of where I came from to sort of show you how things have progressed in the military to what we see today, to things like what's behind me today. This was something with the drones that, let me see, I got into this in 2014. I was stationed at Homestead and I lived in Key Largo, but I bought a drone. I bought a 3DR Solo. I don't know if a lot of you know drones so much, hopefully you do. But a 3DR Solo was one back in those days that was giving the company DJI a run for their money. DJI is the one that you can walk into any Best Buy right now. If you can go pretty much buy a drone, just buy a simple drone. But if you're going to make any type of money, you have to Part 107 license for it. But any hobbyist can go and buy a drone. And the most common ones you'll find on the shelves are DJI. And those are the Chinese drones that everybody's terrified of because of the whole, privacy of information, or supposed suspected privacy of information for gathering information. Or long story short, we can go into that a little bit deeper if you want to talk about that. But anyway, started in 2014, and I was flying around, and funny enough, of all things, rich people would want me to film them driving their yachts down in the Keys. And like, hey, look at me, I'm driving my yacht, type thing. And I fly, it was the dumbest thing. And I was like, what am I doing? Something, I did it on my off time. I was running the flight line down there. But it was interesting to me because it was really cool to be able to control something, and the imagery, I think, on the The Solo, I think, was 1080. I think was the best they had. 4K wasn't really a thing at that point. But I tell you what do they call that? Moore's Law. I'm sure y'all know Moore's Law. So Moore's Law, from the time of 2014 when I got that thing until now, it's like exponential. I mean, it's ridiculous. That one I have now, it looks really cool and it's all brand new and nice. But the thing is, it's old school. It's like the 1912 freaking Model T Ford or whatever, compared to what we have, the Ferraris and everything now. Which, like I said, the one behind me, this is actually a company. This is the one you probably saw in the video. This here is a tethered drone in the box autonomous security system, smart aerial monitoring system. That, if I can do this like a weather girl, this camera here, that payload, that payload there is about a $22,000 camera. It's called a Nighthawk, and it has 40 times video, or 40 times zoom, and I can pop up some video in a little bit for you all to show you what we did. And that's the Super Bowl, by the way, not this year's, but last year's Super Bowl. That's behind me. That's why we were there. We were there for the Super Bowl and assisting the FBI, Miami Gardens, and whoever else what other agencies wanted us to forward our little things, you know. But it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. I jumped on with Valero in 2019, retired from the Air Force in 2016, but messed around with drones and what have you, and just picked people's brains along the way. And that's something I can tell you all, that it's probably something you want to take with you as you go through your careers, or, you know, whatever you do, type thing. But emergency management, probably, I don't know. I'm guessing if you're in it long enough, you probably, I'm sure, Stefan, you probably recognize a lot of the names, you know, a lot of the same people, a lot of people involved, same you, Lucian, the same as well, you know, that you're going to start seeing that. And if you're in an industry that you actually is that small, you do want to really work with as many people as you can. You can have your own opinions of people, but it's one of those things when it comes to working with them. That's one thing the military does. It forces you really take all your personal ideas away from things, and you're really worried about the mission more than you are your personal feelings about somebody. But also at the same time, you never know, because the person that you don't like, they could be your boss sometime soon if you're going to another job or somewhere else. So, I mean, I know I didn't ask everybody what type of positions you are looking to go towards. You know, I know intelligence was a few, you all said some intelligence ideas, but could be the big three: FBI, CIA, you know, that type of stuff. But is there anything you all want me to focus on? I guess I can go on and on, obviously, about everything else. You know, I mean, you asked me some questions, I can answer what you're interested in.
I've actually got a quick question. Recently, what has been just so I'm saying it right, is it VolAero?
Yeah, sounds just like the gas station, but not the gas station.
Right. Okay. So what has been VolAero's recent role using drone technology in emergency management situations? Like, what's the most recent example of this?
In emergency management, let me see. I'd say it's probably Sunrise, when the protests were going on.
Oh, right.
After, oh my goodness, Floyd. I was about to say, I forgot his name. I know
I was about to say, I have to ask which protest.
I forgot his name right now. Which is Floyd. After that, everything happened with him. Funny enough, actually, even before the Sunrise thing, I got a phone call, and this is what I say. This sort of leads into what I just told you. You have an office. They don't have to be your friends, but they have acquaintances. If you have a good working relationship, business-wise, with people in your industry, they will be more apt to call you if they understand you have a certain particular skill, or you have a certain device, or you have some sort of capabilities that they could use. I got a call 6 degrees of separation from this other person who, funny enough, actually, it was the CEO of Easy Aerial. They're the ones who actually produced the drones behind me. And he said, Kevin, I just got a call from a private security company. And he said, do you want to go to Minnesota or Minneapolis, where it happened with Floyd? I believe he got killed. And I said, okay. I said, what is it? And they wanted me to go like that Monday. They called me on a Friday. And I was like, well, I got a lot of stuff going on, man. Logistics wise, I said, I'll try. I said, what's going on? He says, there's a pig farm, of all things. It's a weird story, trust me. He says, a pig farm. There's a pig farm in Minneapolis, and all the protesters, let's put it this way. That happened, when it was, but COVID was already happening, obviously. So people weren't going to the grocery, you know, we were all having issues, and everybody's trying to adjust to this new norm, they call it. So a lot of companies were already strained as it was. Apparently, this pig farm, it was a multi-millionaire, owned the pig farm, and he had to euthanize, I guess, a bunch of pigs. It's a terrible story. But he had to euthanize a bunch because pigs, I guess, go after a certain life, they can't become bacon anymore. I guess, they have a shelf life of a pig. I guess, I don't know. It's the funniest stuff you learn in this industry. I mean, it went from the military and, warheads to now pigs. But basically, that's what they said. So he had to euthanize. He had about 1,000 of them. I think he euthanized about 500 or something like that. So he still had about 1,000, or actually take that back in 2,000, euthanized half, and the other half he still had. The protesters, after the Floyd thing, found out about this pig farm. It was outside the city limits of Minneapolis, and they wanted to release the pigs. They were going to go save all these pigs after they found out he was euthanizing them. Because the rest, I think he sold off half of them. So he needed security, and he hired a private security company. And the private security company wanted to bring every possible capability to the table, which a lot of them do now. It's more of, not just, hey, we want guys on the ground with radios and stuff. They want to have, drones are the new thing. You want to have some sort of aerial coverage, eyes in the sky, top cover. That's what we call it in the Air Force. So they called Ito, and Ito couldn't do it. He said, Kevin, you want to bring your thing, your system up there? And I said, excuse me? He said, bring the system up. I said, what for? And he said, you're going to guard a pig farm. And on top of that, I was going to give some aerial coverage to include, it's combat controller type stuff, where you actually give them directions. If you see a break in the fence, it's a pretty decent size from what I understand. I didn't go, by the way, but it was a pretty decent sized piece of land, and we were going to be right in the middle. And the system I have is tethered, so I can fly on the battery pack we have, which is proprietary, from 10 to 12 hours just on the tether alone. But without the tether, free flying, it would fly about 40 to 50 minutes and then have to land and then charge for another 25 minutes and fly again. So the capabilities right there, like I was saying, they were looking for something for top cover that was a little bit more than off the shelf. So that was one thing that was offered to us. Now, going into something we actually did was during those protests, which started spreading around the different cities in the United States. We're here in Sunrise, Florida. I have a very good working relationship with the police, and they called me. I said, Kevin, you mind bringing the system over? Because I demoed for them a while back. They were looking at buying one. I said, yeah, no problem, man. What do you need? And they said, protesters were, it's funny too, because they were projecting what they were going to do on Twitter. And like, hey, we're going to do this. I was like, it's like the worst, possible plan. I was like, if you're going to do anything, keep it covertly. It was stupid. It's just, some of these just, they can't help themselves but put out on social media what they're going to do. So of course they're saying, we're going to go here and then go here. And then, then they said they're going to go to the Sawgrass Mills Mall and then march from there up Oakland Park Boulevard to the police department. And the big things they were doing, they were pulling down the flags to try to burn them, which of course you're going to piss a lot of people off if you do anything like that. So they wanted me to pretty much come over with the system, and we were there for about 12 hours protecting the flag, I guess you could say, in the sense of it, exactly protecting the flag. We were behind the police department with a tethered system up in the air for, I'd say, about 10 hours, watching over the building while the rest of the department pretty much went into the city. Luckily, nothing happened. So I guess it's a very successful mission, if you want to say. When nothing happens, it's successful. But when things happen, it gets sticky, it gets a little crazy. So that, I could say, is probably the most recent active security we've done.
Right. And I remember at the FIPA conference, you were saying that the system has the capabilities to self-monitor itself around a certain area. Is that correct?
Well, for like geofencing, or what do you mean?
I think, trying to remember exactly what it was. It was a self-deployed system that came out of this capsule, or like this.
Yeah. Well, what you see right here.
Yes.
It's the box that you see that it's sitting in.
Yes.
And I'm going to look over here like I'm seeing something. I'm not seeing anything.
It's that beige bottom right at the bottom.
Yes, sir. Actually, it's the box right here. So actually, let's tell you what. I don't know if you can share the screen. Let me move some stuff around.
For everyone else that hasn't been able to see these things, they're like 5 feet by 5 feet wide. They're huge.
It fits in the back of my truck, and compared to other things. Well, here's a good example. I'll use our Super Bowl promo video. But you see it right there. So right from the beginning, can you see that?
Yeah, we can see that.
So this is the Miami Gardens Police Department. See in the back there? That's it sticking up. Yes, it's a little comprehensive, a little bit bigger than something you bring off the shelf. But basically what it is inside this box, that's the technology that allows it to be autonomous. That all the all the workings, I guess the inner workings, what have you. See in the back and below the green box is a black box called the PG. That's the power that allows it to fly for 10 to 12 hours. We were at the outside festivities outside the stadium, and here's the Sam's going up the Falcon drone with the see the tether on the bottom. And these are like I think it's the day. This is the day before, I believe. So there wasn't really much going on. And you can see in the background here, that's one of the picture in picture. You can see the stadium. We're about 5 miles away, or excuse me, 2 miles away from 5. So basically, just put it up in the air. We were going up and down with it, and you see how it goes back down autonomously. Nobody's flying this, by the way, it's doing its own thing. It goes back in the box. Now, this box can be either inside the truck or actually placed out in the middle of a field somewhere, or wherever, any type of, if you have a high valued asset that you want to protect it, almost like, a nuclear power plant or anything like that, any infrastructure or what have you, you can put something like this out there. Now, this camera, and I have to explain to everybody, the reason it's wobbly back and forth is because we literally got handed that camera a day before the Super Bowl because a company had found out that we were going to be there. And there's a better view of it coming out of the box. You'll see it pop up, and you see the stadium away in the back. Shows you about how far away we were. So once you see the camera footage, you'll see some of it. But there's me and Officer Medina and Iban. So what we're looking at there, I think, if I remember correctly, this was the beginning of the Cardi B concert. People started showing up. So actually, let me stop there. You saw what happened there? This is imagery about a half a mile away in infrared.
That's
so this camera we have is off the shelf. So you go, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's a sharp image that you got there. You can see a lot of details. I mean, not too much, but I mean, it's pretty incredible.
At this distance, that's what $22,000 gets you. I can tell you, this is about sometimes what the distance we would get in a Predator from 36,000 feet. Looking down on people, and that image, you could see there's people. You can see, I mean, and honestly, if you zoomed in on some of them, you can. I think I have a video. We might have been. I think we caught a guy. Yeah, we caught a guy actually on a fence line. He was some drunk guy. He cut a hole in the fence and he was handing drugs or something through the fence, and we got cops pulling him away. But you can see this is the same imagery. So what happens is you don't have a zoom. Really expensive cameras don't have an infrared zoom, but we zoomed in with the EO, which is called electrical optical. So this is like just what you're looking at, like normally out of a looking with your eyeball. So you can see how much it takes away, what type of situational awareness you have. And this could be an emergency management thing too. So say you're looking in an area like you don't even have any lights or anything like that, and you're trying to look into, okay, what's going on here? And you turn on your infrared and bam, you see how many people are there, because you wouldn't, this is zoomed in, yes, but once you put it back, you can start seeing, okay, this gives me a much better situational awareness. You could even start, there was a company we were working with that was starting using AI to start counting people. And it would tell you within the matter of a frame how many people were in that frame, because it can determine legs and arms and heads and everything else like that. So
that's scary.
Yeah, it is. I tell you what, it spin your head with some of the stuff we've done and worked with companies. It's crazy. But it was a lot of fun. Actually, again, this is the night before, so not too many people there or whatever. They were just getting things going. But this. So do you have go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you have a second drone up there with that drone?
Yeah, that's how. No, that was me actually. I'm that tall. I took the picture. No, we had a Phantom we just threw up there. One of my guys we do services on the side as well. Like I know Stefan wants me to talk about it, what I just got off the phone with earlier today about the hunting pythons in the Everglades. But we have a whole assortment of drones here that basically we just threw it up in the air to get some good, marketing stuff. Of course, not many people get to mess with the Super Bowl too much. Right. Now this is because what happened was we cut our teeth on the Orange Bowl actually before this. So it was Florida and Virginia Tech, I think, in the Orange Bowl, which I know probably pisses you all off because it's Florida. But and again, you can see the distance and what we can pretty much cover and what a system like this can actually do. I guess you could say give you a good variance of what you're looking at. So that was the stage of what you saw, the people right here. So it shows you the distance of how far we were. We weren't even zoomed in all the way. So this camera here is a 40 times zoom. Let's see if I can find it better. This is the Orange Bowl. Look at the infrared up top. So the infrared doesn't zoom, remember that. So this is pretty much what we're looking at, but this is zoomed in and we are about 1.5 miles away. And we can see people walking along the catwalks. And this is just regular, only because it's lit very well because of the stadium lighting they have. And I think this is when people were starting to get into the stadium to go in for the game itself. Or you can actually zoom in and on a guy's man bun, which is one of my assistants. I just told him to go out in the parking lot during the demo. I was like, go walk around for a while because they wanted to see. And you can see the white hot. This is called white hot right here on the top right of the screen. It's a different type of imagery. It's infrared, but you can change the palette because sometimes the palette itself, see him zooming on his man bun. So his man bun's getting tracked right there. But you see how clear it is in the top right of the screen? It gives you much more.
Yeah. Well, I do have a question somewhat unrelated to the system, but you know, somewhat related. So you mentioned earlier about China spying or getting data back to China or something like that. And you know, I heard an article recently about how China is vacuuming up bio data from a bunch of, you know, companies. Like they offered the state of Washington biostatistical services, and then, you know, this was on 60 Minutes. It wasn't some like conspiracy site. And so I'm just wondering, is that like a real threat that we have to be cognizant of, like China embedding spy technology, spyware into drones?
The whole thing, well, first of all, actually, I guess it doesn't play in. Y'all have Netflix, I'm sure, right? Anybody has Netflix? And did you watch The Social Dilemma? That's one I got to start with. You got to watch. You're going to want to turn Facebook and everything off after watching it. Trust me. It's one of those where legitimately, it's a great documentary, and it really does pinpoint, and not promoting in the way of, oh, I'm making money from, but it was a case of I working with who I've been working with, a lot of the secret squirrel companies and, you know, or agencies rather, and what we do in the police departments and the intelligence gathering and the law enforcement. And matter of fact, those 2 FBI agents that just got killed, that was right down the street from my office. Matter of fact, I got diverted. I was driving right past, actually got diverted with the police department to go to work, you know, around there. That was even one I just spoke to another agent this morning about that. And it's about information. And I asked them, not to go too far on it, and I asked them what exactly happened with this. And they said the biggest thing was that, what happened there? Y'all can still see the screen, right?
Oh, yeah. Start sharing it again.
What's that?
Yeah, start sharing it again. I stopped it so that you, like.
Oh, it's on me again. Okay.
Yeah, I stopped it so that we could see you when you were speaking. Because I think
you see my pretty face. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was just your wallpaper.
Okay, but anyway, the FBI thing. Long story short, is the agent I talked to this morning. They said it really came down to the intelligence, and they didn't have much intelligence on this guy going into the apartment. And that's why it was sort of like it just took him off guard, because he had no records of owning guns. He had no records of any type of previous. I'm not sure what directed them to them about his whole, you know, affiliation or what it was or why they even went in there. And I know why they went in for, you know, the child porn thing. But the thing was he had no record. He had no criminal records is what happened. So the thing is they had no indication of, oh, we need to go in guns blazing or, you know, smashing down the door and stuff. So that's why everything went sideways very fast. Because he had cameras, he had, you know, because they even look into how, you know, what cameras you have on the house. If they see if you have a registered camera, like, you know, I got an Arlo camera in my house, whatever. When you get investigated, you're going to see that. They're going to say, okay, we're getting ready to go do an ingress, is what they call it, door kicking. They will actually shut down your Arlo cameras before they even go in, you know, so you can't see that. So they had no idea this guy even had a record of anything. So going back to what you said, it's all about intelligence. What you're referring to with the drones, I want to say it's an urban myth. I guess you could say it's not a myth. Anytime you've flown, has anybody flown a drone here? Anybody flown a DJI or something? Okay, Alexandra, like you've flown a DJI, I guess, right? Or what kind of drone?
It might have been a DJI. It was like years ago. It would have been like early Phantom 4 days.
Okay, so yeah, there you go. So you're not giving yourself enough credit. You just rattle off a Phantom 4. There you go. So your Phantom 4, if you remember, you probably remember or not, when you first started it up, it probably had a firmware update. That's like the first thing that happens every time. It's a pain in the butt. A lot of people get so upset. But the other thing is you have to like log into the DJI app, and that's how you fly the drone. So referring to what James is talking about, when you log into that app, you're logging into an online cloud-based service. So the whole issue with the privacy was that that online cloud-based service could actually see your geolocation, and if they really wanted to see the imagery that's coming out of your, like her Phantom, she's flying around an Air Force base or something like that, and they're like, hey, cool, China's looking at, you know, where she's at. They can put the pieces together to realize, okay, she's in an Air Force base looking at this direction, because it even has GPS direction will show you which way you're facing. So you see how that information could really be useful. So the biggest thing what everybody was frightened about, especially at the government level, was they've created China, because it's so prevalent across the United States, all these people buying drones because they're so easy to buy them now, and everybody has a DJI, that they have created a, what did I call it, a passive intelligence gathering with I guess unintended agents, I guess you could say, people that just are out there having people flying drones around their garden in their backyard. Probably not. That's where I'm saying, because I was just recently interviewed by Innovation to Tech magazine, and she asked me the same thing, and my comment was, I very much doubt that anything, even if somebody stumbles upon or finds the technology to stumble upon hacking into Alexandra's Phantom, I'm pretty sure she's not flying through something that's highly sensitive, unless you were, I don't know, you know, there's something that's, you know, an infrastructure that's really going to take down the Western United States or whatever, you know. She was probably flying around her house. And so China now sees Alexandra's house, you know, type thing, whatever, you know, like, oh, she needs a new roof tile. And that's pretty much the intelligence they gathered. That's 1998 when it really started in houses. But you all grew up with this, you know, you can't imagine a time where you didn't have a connectivity that we didn't have growing up, that literally, and to think about it also, each and every one of you individually has your own preference or your own idea of how much social media you really want to put out there. Because think about it, what is happening today that people did years ago that's ruining their careers right now. You know, that's why I'm sure that's probably why you're all stressed out, this generation, because like, I don't know if I should do this, because this could come back in 15 years, you know, if I just take this picture wrong or something like that. So I totally understand it, I really do, because it's all there. Many of you have gone through, you know, introduction to computers, SEO, y'all understand the search engine optimization. There we go. I had that 2 semesters ago. But it's anything that's, I know I'm getting in the weeds here. It's what we call this, like on Google. That's a good example. Google, AI. You all understand that you use AI every time you do a Google search, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Before Google released this AI, a good example, and man, I wish I had the TED Talk link. I'd send it to you all. It's great. That Google works in a way, if you want to search for a picture of a red Camaro, you would say, okay, red Camaro in the Google search. The old days, Google would actually produce pictures to you of keywords that were tagged to a red Camaro manually by somebody who typed in a description. You know, hey, I own a red Camaro, and then bam, there's a picture. That was the only, it wasn't AI working there. It wasn't a computer learning. It was a case of, it was just a tag thing that somebody had done. So now, since Google, and they sort of snuck it in and didn't tell anybody, and they did this on their own. Facebook tried it as well, but the thing went berserk and started like talking to itself, and they took it back really quickly. And then said, oh, they did a press release, but it was actually something that started thinking for itself. It was really scary. But Google did it, and actually now when you do a search for a red Camaro, the computer itself understands what a car is, what a Camaro is, and what the color red is. And it's actually learning and teaching itself as you're doing this. So it takes what's called data sets. If everybody understands all that, if you're AI is like my sort of hobby type thing. Data sets, massive amounts of information, where the internet's been around long enough that you have these huge data sets that it can actually learn from that, and it teaches itself. So it's not so much that we program computers anymore. It's a case that we actually just release them and say, okay, go learn this. And it goes and learns its own thing, and it comes back. But I can really get into programmer's bias, which actually really is a crazy subject. If you really, I see Alexandra shaking her head, so she probably read stuff on this right now. It's some studies I've been doing and speaking with people about this, that it's insane. It's a little bit crazy, but it's human nature, because the program or the machine is only as good as the people that created it, and to include moral and ethical, you know, thinking as well, you know, because Alexandra or Lucian or you yourself, everybody might program it differently because you came up in a different, upbringing than I did. I program one way because I see the world one way. You program another way because you see the world a different way, and the computer is going to react to how you programmed it. It's really weird, and it's odd if you think about it, and a little trippy if you think too much about it, but it's a case of it's there. So going all the way back, the big circle I made all the way back to the point you're making. Yes, there are privacy issues, but it's a case of, like I said, unless you're looking at Alexandra's roof on her house, or it's a case of you're really trying to get as much information as you can to make a whole person picture. But it's only after you've identified a target that you're really trying to focus in on this person. And the AI thing, that the clear view I just spoke of, it's terrifying in a way because he did it on the CNN reporter. And he said, well, let me test it on you. And he takes the guy's picture and immediately, like 2 seconds. So the first ones are obviously the guys, okay, that's my LinkedIn. And he's looking through the picture. That's my LinkedIn picture. That's my, Facebook picture. And he goes, hang on a second. And he scrolls down further. He goes, oh my God. He said, this picture was when I was 16 years old. And you know what was crazy about it? Wasn't even looking at him face on. He was in the back of a dimly lit party with the side of his face turned, and it still picked him up because it understands what you can look like at different ages of your life. And that's the scary part about it. And the thing is, but not only did it do that, and what I referred to when I was talking about the tagging of photos, like you put a tag onto it as opposed to AI learning it. Along with it pulling up pictures, you'd probably say that's innocuous, it's not going to do anything. It pulls up pictures, but it also can pull up any information. All it needs is your name and your address comes up. You can do a Google search on your name right now, and I guarantee you're in the white pages. You got your address. You got probably a vote. Would you vote? Democrat, Republican type thing. You go with that. You immediately start getting license plates number. You can get to anything. Your affiliation, how many people are in your family, who lives in the same house. That's public access information that a lot of people don't realize they pump out on a daily basis just by your email address alone, just tied to everything. It's ridiculous. That's why so many people want to, hey, take this. You're on Facebook. Hey, take this test, or actually, matter of fact, you need to watch that the documentary because they talk about that. Those little what do they call it? The little quizzes on Facebook that people do all the time. You think you're taking a nice little quiz, but it's actually building, and the AI is building a whole person picture of you. And therefore, that little quiz that you just said, oh, okay, what kind of lollipop you like, or whatever the quiz is, I don't know. And the thing is, next thing you know, your echo chamber is what they call it now. Your little ecosystem you live in now was actually bolstered by what you voluntarily gave it, just by taking these little tiny innocuous, whatever it was, little things that tell about yourself, like, oh yeah, I do like red as opposed to blue, or I like the mountains as opposed to ocean, type thing. And that's all it is. It's just building. I hate to say it, but honestly, it's intelligence gathering today. Back from when I first got in the Air Force and I was in the Skunk Works with the U2 program, intelligence gathering today is so easy. It is so easy because so many people just give the information up. You don't have to ask for them. You just sit back and wait. Sit back and have somebody comment on a picture. Sit back and have somebody do something. Does that answer your thing, James?
Yeah, no, it's pretty interesting.
I mean, but like I said, I have a lot of experience with a lot of the agencies. I can run off the mouth, and I don't want to keep you all for too long. I know we're going on an hour almost already. But what else were you looking at, thinking, or knowing, I guess you could say?
Well, I guess. Oh, go ahead, James.
Oh no, go ahead.
We're on the same wavelength today. So I guess at FSU, our kind of drone program focuses more on emergency management, and they actually go to disaster sites and stuff like that. So how would you describe the differences between maybe what they do and what you would do? From what I'm gathering, you're more of an Intel Homeland Security type position.
Yeah, I see. Well, Valero does services as well. We also work with Florida Power and Light whenever there's a hurricane. So that was where it would come into. And funny enough, actually, with Stefan and actually when I met Lucian as well, at the FIPA, we got a lot of really good connections while we were there, along with you two, of course. And that FP&L. It's sort of 6 degrees of separation. And once again, like I said, small community, 6 degrees of separation. We ended up with a contract with FP&L that anytime there's a hurricane and what have you, I have a pool of pilots that I just call the guys up. Hey guys, you're on standby. You know, hurricane's coming through, on standby to send them out, and they make an average. Last one came through, I think average, my guys are making $700 to $1,300 a day, just flying, doing nothing really. I mean, because I said, send me some of the video of what you're doing, because I want to see what it was, because I coordinate all of it. I mean, I can fly too. I said, but I'm the guy putting it together. We made a pretty good amount of money too, but I'm saying I said, what are you doing? And they showed me, and they're like, oh, well, they paid for my hotel. They gave me a food stipend, and then they paid me another $1,100 a day, again, up in Pensacola or whatever they flew. And they're literally just flying, watching a guy, watching a Florida Power and Light guy like reconnect a transformer or something, you know. And I was like, that was it? And I said, yeah, we flew through 3 times. So that was part of the emergency management. It gives them a better, like, because that information, they would download it and send it to Florida Power and Light at the end of the day. And it's almost like a QA, you know. There's so many different aspects and capabilities you can do with the drones. You can do that. You're doing like a QA to make sure the guy is safe and he's putting whatever together, because he's out there by himself, probably by himself. I don't know, because of the shortage of manning, and everybody was spread all over. They had Duke Energy down here, you know, anytime. I think you're all in Florida, right? Everybody's in Florida. That Duke Energy, anytime there's a hurricane, you know, there's different companies that come out and help each other out. But there's also, let me see, that was oversight of that as well. But also sometimes you'll have like trees and everything fell down, and you can't get your vehicle in somewhere. So obviously, I'm sure you all figured out, you can just put a drone up and go and look and see, okay, what is the safest ingress into this neighborhood, because we know we got to get over to that area. That's one of the most, I'd say, most straightforward common uses in emergency management of them. Or what I learned at FIPA, as a matter of fact, the what is the name of them? I guess there's 3 different, from what I learned at FIPA, there's 3 different aspects of emergency management. You have the people who clean up debris, then there's the other people who schedule the cleaning up of debris, and then there's the other people who file the claims, I guess, or the what is it, the grants or something from the state, right? Is that what it is? So there's actually whole businesses that people were making tons of money. I couldn't believe, like, the grant finding thing was ridiculous. I mean, I had 4 or 5 of those companies come find us, like, hey, we can do this and help you out. And I was like, what is it you do? Because it seemed like, because they had, like, their booth was weird. But basically said, yeah, we find the grants to pay for all these operations to pick up the debris and take it away, type thing. But even they said the drones will be utilized for, we can do what's called volumetrics. So you can use a drone to fly over a pile of something. Say, not that they would really need it, they know the debris just needs to go away. And like, say they have a pile, like we do mining out in Fort Myers. It's my ex's actually her grandfather. He owns a mine out in Fort Myers, and they dig and they take so much earth out of the ground, quarry, coral, whatever it is, you know. But the thing is, he has to, his operation requires him to know how much he has on hand all the time for dirt, sand, whatever it is. I can fly a drone over and do what's called volumetrics. So the 3D, the AI can actually scan it. I do a 3D scan of the whole thing, and because of the distance and what's called the KLV data, we can actually see, or the computer estimates the volume of what is on the ground. And he can do this every day for every load that his dump trucks take away. I mean, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and you can always say, I have 3,000 tons, I got 2,500 tons or whatever, as opposed to like just estimating with your eyeballs. I mean, this actually gives you no joke estimation of it. And in a way, emergency management, you can do the same thing for debris. That way you can plan a little bit better. It helps with your logistics to where you know how many trucks you need to come in that way, as opposed you can divert other trucks somewhere else, as opposed to bringing everybody there at one time. So it does give you, once again, back to what James was talking about, information. I mean, surveillance, information, you can't go wrong with more information. I mean, you can be overloaded with information, but it's never a bad thing. It's just, you got to know how to use it, you know? You got to piece it together, I guess you say. Anybody else? Oh, Fabian, I just saw Fabian's here, and also Stephanie, somebody else joined as well.
Just listening, lots of interesting stuff. I'm loving everything that I'm hearing.
It's all live, by the way. I'm making this up. I got a script above my head. Trying to get you all to laugh. Wake up, people. Come on.
No, I actually, so you were mentioning about how you went out and built drone sites in Afghanistan. Do they still do that? Because I also, and this is just me reading as, some civilian dude in the United States that's never been anywhere else, that they drop cargo containers with like drone platforms built into them just in the mountains of Afghanistan for surveillance. Is that true?
Well, it's a funny story I could tell you. If you haven't figured out, I've got some stories. Me as a new master sergeant, just put on my top stripe, and they try to have you earn your stripes, what they say. So me as a new master sergeant got thrown to the wolves. But it's loaded very carefully because you can't damage them. But it's about, I'd say a contingent is about a C5 worth or two C-17s, if you know your aircraft, two C-17 cargo aircraft, or one big C5 worth of equipment. I guess you could say that can start up 2 aircraft flying. And we set the record too. From boots on the ground, or wheels down is what they call it. Once you landed, we could be up and flying within 8 hours. And it sounds like a lot, but it's not. Trust me. For an operation to be landing in country somewhere, you were literally there for about 2-3 days conventionally, like with an F-18, F-16, whatever it is. But for a Predator to be up in the air flying within 8 hours of landing, that's huge, 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 huge. And then we'd hand it over to Lockheed Martin or somebody else. And they could take all the glory. That's what would happen. But yeah, those are fun times. Like I said, I can go on and on about all that stuff. So I know I'm straying away from emergency management. Stefan, you got something?
Yeah. How about the Python hunting?
Well, okay. That's like I said before, like I was telling Alexandria or whoever asked me here before, there's so many uses for these drones. You can imagine, I guarantee you put a drone in your hand. I got one, a Mavic Mini 2, and it's as big as my cell phone, basically. This little thing can fly for 30 minutes, a solid 30 minutes, and can fly 6 miles away, and it has 4K video. That little Mavic Mini 2, once you put it in your hands and you start flying, you see it on your phone, you're looking at a different perspective of the world. You immediately, after you first get amazed, you're like, oh, that's really cool, and I can fly around, look at myself, or look at other things. And then you realize, wow, I could do this. That's the first thing that comes to your brain. I could do this. I could do this. You start getting these ideas. 99% of the ideas you get out of your head just by flying a drone the first time, they're legitimate. They're viable ideas. Like you could say, oh, I can count cows with this, and that's what people are doing right now. They're actually using them on ranches to count their cows, make sure one didn't get out of the fence. Or I can watch the fence line, make sure the cows don't get out. They have like the perimeter securities like ours. It launches, it's autonomous, and it can launch from either seismic, laser, or motion detector. So motion detection, you've already had a pre-programmed, what's called a geofenced area that has different sensors throughout the area. That if a sensor goes off, it immediately takes off, and as the crow flies, goes straight to the sensor and hangs out there for as long as you want it to. You can program how long you want it to sit there, what angle you want to look at, what you want to look at the sensor or off to the right, whatever it is type thing. So many different uses. So one of the services we did back in 2017 was we went and caught a python. A couple pythons out in the Florida Everglades. And see if I might have to share the screen here again. Let me find it for you. Sorry about that. I should have had it already spooled up.
I've caught a few myself.
What's
in
that?
The Everglades. I caught a few myself in the Everglades. They're little feisty little guys. Yeah. On trail.
You're a braver man than I, man. You're crazy. Let me clarify. I didn't catch the python. We had a guy who came and catch a python. Guy Bill Booth. But the reason this came up again was I got contacted by CBS. There's a show on Saturday mornings called Innovation Nation. I've never seen it. Saturday mornings at 10:30 on CBS. I guess, well, there's a show called Innovation Nation. It's about all kinds of new innovative ideas and tech and what have you. And this video that was since 2017, before I was with the company even, I guess CBS, this guy, producer, saw it. And he goes, this is really cool. And he calls me and says, hey, I want to put you on CBS. And he says, all right, we got 2-point-something million viewers every morning. And he said, after that's in the US, and he said, then we go worldwide with it. So it's on a major network. And I said, okay, well, he said, we want to come out in March and film you all catching pythons. So Ron Bergeron is a family friend of mine, and I'm not sure if you know him so much, you maybe, because he's on the FWC Florida Wildlife Commission, and he's on a South Florida Water Management Division. He's a commissioner on that. Huge conservationalist. I mean, he is Mr. Everglades for the most part. So if there's anything to be saved, this guy, he's going to save them. The reason for the python and the Fabian, you know this then. If you caught a few, you probably did it for a reason, unless you're making boots or a hat or something. But there's a whole python hunting season for the reason of they're trying to get rid of these things in the Everglades, because these things are legitimately destroying the Everglades. They're messing up the ecology. They're eating the deers, they're eating the raccoons, and all the stuff that is like an even balance. I mean, you all growing up, if you live in Florida, you know the Everglades. It's the second largest wildlife or excuse me, park in the United States, next to Yellowstone, I think it is. But it's also a very even balance that has to be maintained, from water to ecology to the biology to the vegetation to everything, to where what's happening with these pythons, these are an invasive species that aren't even indicative to here in Florida. So
they have no predators either. Like they have nothing else competing with them. So
exactly, they're
as well.
You're right. I learned that the other day too. They're pretty much the apex predator. And they even said, Bill or Ron was telling me, he said if you had a 7-foot alligator and a 7-foot python, he said it's a toss up who's going to win. You would think the alligator would win, but he said no. He said it's a toss up. It's crazy. These things they're nuts. You know, they'll get out of hand. So long story short, they are ruining the Everglades, and they step up the fight against these things. Because Fabian, how long did you search before you found one? Before you actually grabbed one?
For about like an hour and a half, and also you could be walking for hours and you could have one right next to you and you won't even notice that it's there. That's how well they camouflage.
Ron said at the time he'd step on top of them. He said a lot of times he'll step on them before you even see them. 100%. And it's funny because he talks about he only has 7 toes left, or he has 3 toes left, or something like that. I mean, it's funny. It's funny. I don't know if he's telling the truth, but as he's talking, he was waving his hand, and the tip of his middle finger's gone. I was like, he might be telling the truth. So this guy, he's been doing this for a long time. There we go. This was just a quick video we put together when we were out there. You can see this, right? Everybody see? All right.
Yep. Yeah, looks good.
M100 and the Phantom. The Phantom was there just for lights, and we had an M100 out there using infrared. We got lucky with this particular one. That's a big snake. You'll see in a second how big it is compared to when Bill gets up there. And he starts messing around with it. And the thing was, normally the snakes are the same temperature as the ground, but this one was transitioning to try to get the higher ground to sit up, on warmer area because it warm himself. That's a big one. I forgot it was like 12, 14 feet long or something like that. This guy just playing with it like it's a pet.
I probably would not try to catch that one.
Yeah. This guy's been doing it for a long time, but Ron's been doing it just as long as this guy. And it was snapping. I didn't know, and it sounds stupid, but I didn't know that pythons snap like that. I know they're not poisonous. They said, but it does hurt like crazy when they bite you.
With their teeth, they curve inside, so they'll just hook onto you.
Oh, really? It's like almost like a tick.
It is nasty. I used to deal with a lot of rattlesnakes a couple of years back, and they've just got the needles, but they'll kill you in a few seconds. Yeah.
See, another reason that Bill's happy there is because that's a bit of money. So the state pays you to catch snakes, and this is why I'm making this into. Look at that thing. That's crazy. Looks all tame,
Huge.
Gotta be a good 100 pounds.
Yeah, and I don't know if the state pays you by the pound or by the foot or what, but
I think they start paying you once it's bigger than 4 or 6 feet. They start paying you.
Oh yeah. Oh, after a certain size.
Yeah, after a certain size, they'll pay you a certain amount by foot.
Oh, okay. That's pretty. Oh,
George has got a similar thing about wild boar, but maybe Florida does too.
Oh, sorry. Another video playing. But yeah, that was actually an interesting. It was like, again, before I was with the company. I lost you all. Where you at? There you are. It was before I was with the company. But it was something that CBS caught. They caught wind of. They saw it. The guy was doing. He was just looking for new tech and things, and he saw it and said, hey, we want to come out and do this again. So in March, early March, we're going to be out there doing the same thing. newer technology, because that technology you see there was just a typical IR off the shelf type thing. I might be bringing some cool newer drones, some Autel, maybe a Parrot as well, to try out the IR just to see what the different imagery is like, if it's a little bit better or worse or otherwise. We could go out there and get skunked, is what they say when you're fishing. You know, you go out there, you get nothing, because it's a hit or miss type thing. Hopefully we'll have something cool, and we'll be presenting a new video to you all of us going out there getting a big giant snake. Record setting, hopefully. But I'll be the guy flying the drone away from the snake. Not that I'm scared or anything. It's just I got size 16 feet, so it'll be a big lunch for them. Pretty much grabbing onto my toes.
Would anyone else like to ask any questions to Kevin? Okay, cool. Well, we definitely had some great Q&A, some great discussion. Thank you, Kevin, so much for being here. This was super interesting.
No problem. I appreciate it. Actually, thank you all for giving me the chance to flap my gums for a while and give you all a heads up. And like I said, anything you need. I know I sort of went off on different tangents. It's a common thing that, you know, with first sergeants, it's because you help people with so many different, like, whole person, not issues, but I'm saying you try to educate them in so many different ways, not just the one thing. So, I mean, again, emergency management, I don't know if we touched so much on it. If you had too many other ideas or questions concerning how drones are really, I hope that you all came away with something on this as far as like how drones can really be utilized, maybe. Or maybe if you had more questions, I guess I'm always here. I have no problem. I can do this every day if you need me to. I think information, because we had a saying, and I always leave most of my speeches or whatever with this, is we had a saying in the Air Force called train your replacement. And the reason is that when you hear that, you take offense to it. Like, what do you mean? I'm not good enough now? And you train the person that's going to take your spot next. Mainly because, and I even said in my retirement too, it's because the reason it's not saying you're not doing good enough. It's a case of if you're gone for a day, or actually you go to the next base, because we were constantly on the move, you have to have somebody to a seamless transition into that spot. Otherwise, that mission or that portion of the job you were doing was not going to be effective if it keeps going up and down every time a new person comes. They got to learn again, you know. So I see it that way. That's why I have an affinity to, you know, helping out and speaking with students, and, you know, definitely I need you all. Not needed. We all need you all to pretty much, you know, do the best you can in the industry you're going to go into. That's why I say you are the replacements. And I don't mean my specific job, but in general in society. This year, I just read an article about they said it's the industry is going to be up to about, I think, $32 billion for the drone industry, and new designs, and just the industry itself has grown so much. Something you wouldn't have even thought about 8 years ago. Everybody sell them as toys. You know, they're, oh, it's a toy, don't do anything, whatever. But now that it's the payload, once again, we're back to that. It's the payload you put onto the toy that can get you the data and the information that you can use for very important decision-making processes, you know, emergency management, intelligence, any other thing, I guess you can apply it to, I guess. But again, I don't want to keep you all too long. I see some eyes drooping. You all probably got some homework to do. I know I do. You know, so.
Do you have a LinkedIn or something that I can follow you on?
Yeah, we're gonna email out his LinkedIn contact info, as well as Valero's website. If anyone wants to, you know, follow up, continue the conversation, like look into the field, any of that, go for it.
Yeah, anything you all, I mean, LinkedIn, email me, or otherwise I can answer what have you. And I tell you the truth, I had an Embry-Riddle student drive down from Daytona the other day, and he walked in and said, I want to shadow you for a bit. And it's funny because that day I wasn't really doing much, you know, but so we started thinking of different things, and now he's going to be involved with me at an active shooter demo. So there you go. That'll be my next one. Lucian, I think you asked me the most active thing. We're doing an active shooter exercise up in Winter Springs High School, along with other companies. Another company called Mutual Links, the one invited us. So we're going to use our drone to pretty much give Overwatch for them to do an exercise of ingress into the high school, as if, you know, an active shooter type thing. And another little piece of information about me, not to leave on a somber note, but I was at Stoneman Douglas 2 hours before everything happened. My ex's son was going into freshman year of high school, and he was going to Stoneman. So we were there for a indoctrination ceremony. We want to talk it, I guess you could say, in the auditorium. We left, and then everything happened. So a little bit near and dear to my heart when it comes to school security, you know, because of all that. So I'll jump at the chance to get involved in anything like that, and in protecting, you know, schools and very vital infrastructure like that. It's something that I never would have even thought of. I mean, when I went to school down in Carroll City, yes, there were stabbings and there were shootings and stuff, but nothing like that. Nothing like what happened. So it was just a perfect storm. It really was. But again, intelligence would have helped beforehand. A little bit more intelligence, I guess you could say. But so yes, active shooter demo. So what I was getting with that point was, you never know, because this can turn into something where I can pick one or two of y'all to come help me out with a few things, whether it interests you or otherwise or not. You might say, no, I want to go in this direction, but you say, hey, you know what, I want to come out and try this out. And actually you see hands-on. It's a little bit different from me explaining, but a lot different when you have hands-on with drones. And then you start, getting sort of the bug. And before you know it, you start your own company and you start using drones for intelligence or emergency services or whatever you can. But it's a lucrative path. I could tell you that right now. I have a couple colleges who are wanting me to speak on that very thing about the commercial use of these and how you can really get your Part 107 license and actually make some money doing this. It's definitely a good path for you. So hopefully I answered some questions, or at least entertained y'all for a little while.
Yeah.
On a Monday night. Is it Monday still? Okay.
No. This was a really interesting glimpse into basically how drones can be used for all sorts of purposes besides just your standard military, governmental, EM purposes. So thank you, Kevin, for sharing this. This was so interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. No problem, guys and gals. Appreciate it. And thanks again for